ladies and gentlemen, my name is Destiny and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to go ahead and start working with deleting users from the database, and we're going to be doing that from the front end. And guess what? It's going to be asynchronous, which means that we don't have to refresh the page in order to delete objects from the database. It's just going to fade out. If you want to see more videos like this, do make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing, as that will really mean the world to me. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, remember from the last video, this is all we worked on. Now in this one, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna get rid of all this. For now, I'm just gonna stick with the let's come over to the index. I need to pin that, so I'm gonna just open that up and I'm gonna pin it down. Okay, and I need to open up the views.py. So we need to create a new function, and this one is going to be called maybe delete student. Now we need to say define delete underscore student. And we are simply going to pass in the request function in there, the request parameter in there rather. And now we need to check if request.method is equal to post. What do we want to do? Firstly, we want to go ahead and get an ID. So we're going to say ID should be equal to request.post.get, like this. Then we want to get the student ID. Don't worry, we are still going to do this from the front end to be able to get the student ID, to be able to pass on the ID and, get the student ID. We are still going to do that. Now, the next thing we want to say is go ahead and say student should be equal to student.objects.get. So we want to get student by ID should be equal to PK. Now, this is going to be, ID should be equal to, there is a problem over here. This is supposed to be ID, not IF. So that was a mistake, and this isn't supposed to be here, and this should be working now. So let's just give this ID should be equal to that. Now ID should be equal to ID. I think we can either use primary key over here, primary key. So with this now, let's simply go ahead and console log the students. I'm simply gonna go ahead and print students so that I would see what we'll be getting. And yeah, so after this, what do you think we could do next? We could go ahead and delete the students. So we could simply say student.delete, and yeah, the student is gonna be gone. And finally, we're gonna say return JSON response, and we would simply want to pass in a status of 1. Okay, so I'm gonna say JSON response, and this is gonna be status, and this is going to be 1, just like that, which means that a student was deleted. Okay, hopefully you understand. What if a student wasn't deleted? So I want to simply say return JSON response, and this one is going to have a status of, 0. Now we need to get out of here and do this here. Okay, so yeah, as simple as that, nothing else attached. We are done with the views. Now we want to go ahead and work with the urls.py. Let me make sure to change this to 1 and 0. Okay, then you want to come over to, I think my Visual Studio just got closed. I'm going to open it up again, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so it started again, and this is what we've got. Now we simply want to come over to the urls.py, and this one we're going to create delete student. So this one is simply delete student, and as you all know, this one over here was delete. I think I called it delete students. Let's look at what we called it again. So I'm going to come over to the views and look at this. So as you can see, we called it delete students. I'm just going to copy that, come over here, and we're going to paste it, and finally we're going to add in delete students over here. Okay, so after that, I think that's pretty much what we want to do. Then the next thing we want to do is now go over to the index.html. I'm just gonna search for index, and I pressed Ctrl G on my keyboard to open up this pop-up that's gonna help me search for templates or files or whatever. Now I'm simply gonna come over to where we have our Ajax code down here, and I'm gonna create a new one, and this one is gonna be deleting students. So take note, this is where we started. We started from, I'm just gonna go up a bit. So as you can see, we started from here, and now I want to just come down here and start a new one. So I'm gonna say at tbody.onClick, and we want to get the button delete. So we simply want to say $, and we want to get tbody. So I'm going to get the tbody, and we simply want to listen for a click, we're gonna say the on click. So once the button is clicked, and what is the name of the button? We called it, if you can still remember, we gave it a class, and the class that we gave it was btn delete. Okay, so you might be like, hey, where is the btn delete? I'm gonna go ahead and search for it, and I'll show you guys now. So as you can see, we've got btn del over here. I'm gonna change this to btn del, and at the top where we were running the Django for loop, we also have one over here, and actually I think we don't have it yet, so I'm simply gonna add it over here. I'm gonna say btn del. Okay, actually that one is btn edit, and this one down here is simply btn del. So I'm gonna say btn del, just like that. And I think that should be it. Now the next thing we want to do is just we can still change this to submit if you want, but there is no much reasons for it. So after doing this, the next thing we want to do is go down to the Ajax code, and we still want to create a function. So as usual, we're going to create a function, and we're going to go ahead and start writing the code. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and console log. Let's say delete button clicked, delete button was clicked, and let's see if everything actually works fine. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm simply going to refresh this, and I'm going to give the thorough refresh. I'm going to say Control Shift R, and hopefully it refreshes thoroughly. I don't know, it's taking a little bit of time. I think we should just give it a sec. It should go ahead and load up, and let me make sure I'm connected to the internet, because I am using Bootstrap right now, and Bootstrap actually requires internet for it to work well. So now if you come over to the home page and open up the console log, and we click on this button over here, as you can see, it says button was clicked. Now if we click on any of this, as you can see, it keeps adding this up, and it says button was clicked. Now this is one thing that I want to check. When we create a new student and enroll the students, now automatically they get these buttons. How about we click on this now? What you notice, it still gets it, and it says button was clicked. Okay, so that's exactly what we wanted. And now let's go ahead and start writing out the main functionality. I'm simply going to head back here, and what we want to do is this. So, and one more thing that I want you to know is take a close look at this. Now we've got this t-body over here. We got hash t-body, and that's just because if you look at the top over here, you'd see that we have, I'm just going to come down once more. You can see that we'll have this t-body element, and in there we'll have this ID that's called t-body. So that's why we are actually referencing it in the Ajax. Now when we've done this, the next thing that we want to do is simply go ahead and get ID. So I'm going to say let's ID be equal to, and I'm going to open up a $sign, and there's going to be a parentheses, and I simply want to say this dot attribute. So this is the attribute, and what we simply want to get is the data SID. So I'm going to say data dash student ID. Now this data dash student ID is something that we need to actually go ahead and define above. So I'm simply going to look for the t-body again, and you see this place that we've got all those buttons. We simply want to create a data SID, and you might be like, hey, why are we creating a data SID? Now you remember from this place, let me actually get there. I'm simply going to search for data SID, and we're going to look for this one. So while appending this, you remember that we had this data SID thing over here that we assigned to the ID of whatever students that they are getting. Now this same thing, exactly like this, we'll still want to do it in the buttons that we got at the top. So I'm simply going to look for the delete button at the top, and I think that's not actually getting it. I'm going to look for the edits. Okay, and this is it. Now just at the back over here, I want to add one more argument, and I'm going to call it data dash SID, just like this. And now in here, we simply want to add in some couple things. We are simply going to say s.id. So we are simply getting the student ID whenever we interact with any of those buttons over here. That's why we want to use it over here below. Now you might be like, hey, what does this line over here means? Now this is what it means. We simply say it ID, take note, this is a variable, you can call it wherever you want. Then we say this over here is simply referencing the button, this over here that we got, and this t-body. So it's simply saying, hey, on this code that we've written over here, simply get the data SID. Okay, so automatically it's gonna know, okay, yeah, there is an attribute called data SID, and it's simply gonna get whatever is in the data SID. Take notes, we are getting data SID like this, but behind the hood, what it's getting is something like this, s.id. Okay, so it's getting the student ID, and we are just using this data SID keyword to actually reference it. So when we've done this, the next thing we can do is go ahead and just define my data. So I can say my data. You remember we did this from the last video, and you could call this whatever you want. I could say SID, and we call this SID. Now, what does this simply mean? Okay, rather instead of SID, this one is going to be ID. Okay, so data. Now I assigned this SID thing to this ID that we've got over here. Okay, now let's go ahead and keep going. Now the next thing that we need to do is go ahead and say, okay, I can also use my this, and my this should be equal to, let's say we still want to use this. Don't worry, I'm gonna explain everything that's going on here so you'd understand. But after I've written down the code, now we're gonna go ahead and start working with the Ajax. And working with the Ajax is pretty much the main deal over here, and this is what we're gonna be doing. So firstly, we need the URL, and if you remember from a few minutes ago, a few seconds ago, we created a new view and we called it delete. You remember we called it delete students, so that's the view we're gonna pass in here. So you might be like, no, not delete view but delete students. I think that's because I was saying delete view. So this delete student that will pass over here is simply the one that we've got over here in the name. So whatever you put in this name, that's what you're simply gonna pass in over here. Okay, and in order to make sure that that's okay, I'm simply gonna come over here and I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm gonna come over to the index. Also, I'm gonna highlight this one and paste that. So that was looking actually good. Now the next thing I want to add up is a type. So sorry, a method, and this method is gonna have a type of post, or the method type is gonna be post, whatever you want to call it. And finally, we need to also work with data. So if you worked with Ajax from the upper videos, you know that we worked with data over here. Then we assigned it to this my data thing that we created down there. And data just like this. Now what we need to pass in is my data. So I'm sure you're already familiar with this one. Now after passing all this in, the next thing we want to pass in is go ahead and pass in a success function. So there's going to be success, and we need to define a function. Now this function is going to take one parameter, and that's data. Take note, you can pass in whatever you want in there. And this success function, when something happens, what do we want to do? Firstly, let's go ahead and log data. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and log data, and I also want to go ahead and log. Okay, that's not supposed to be log, it's supposed to be console. I don't know why that doesn't autofill it for me. So I log data, and I'm also gonna log this student was deleted. So I'm gonna log something like students deleted successfully, or student deleted. Let's not waste any more time. And when all this runs, that means something actually happened, right? So let's try refreshing this and see if something actually went down. Now take notes, nothing might have happened, but okay, as you can see, it says delete button was clicked, but now there is an error over here. So as you can see, it says post blah 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 blah, and I think this is a forbidden, this as you can see, it's a CSRF error. So I'm going to come over to my view, and as you can see on the student over here, let's add the CSRF exempt that we imported from the future videos, or from the last video, sorry about that. Now I'm gonna refresh this one more time, and we're gonna give it, actually I think there is an error in my terminal. Okay, it's still reloading and it's done now. So I'm gonna refresh this, and we need to just hit this button once. And what do you notice? It says student deleted. That means one student was actually deleted. Now if I refresh this, what do you notice? Boom, the student is gone. And you might be like, okay, I didn't see any student go. Now I'm going to show you this. So take a close look at Destiny Franks, and now I'm simply going to come over here and hit delete, and I want to refresh this. And what do you notice? Destiny Franks is gone. So we are done with the first step. Now the next step, we're going to go ahead and automatically fade out the students when we delete them. So that's what we're going to go ahead and start doing right now. Now I just want you to get back to your code and get back to the index.html and get back to the success function. So below the success function, that's where we're going to be doing most of the things that we want to be doing. Now the first thing we're going to say is check if data.status is equal to 1, which means that a student was actually deleted. So we're going to say if data.status is equal to 1. And there is something else I want to do. Let me go ahead and look at my console log when I press this button. Okay, as you can see, it's getting the status, so it's working perfectly well. So if data.status is equal to 1, that means a student was actually deleted. Now what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and we can either console log, let's say, now this is the perfect time to actually console log student deleted, right? Yeah, this is perfect time to console log student deleted. And also this is the perfect time to go ahead and get my this. So I'm going to show you what this over here does now. I'm going to open up a dollar sign, and I'm going to open up parentheses, and I'm going to pass in my this just like that, and I'm going to say dot, that dot is supposed to be outside, dot closest like that, and closest we're simply going to pass in the tr. So what we want to close is a tr. Don't worry, I'm still going to explain all this if you're not following along yet. And what we simply want to do is fade out. So you can add a couple of things here: fade in, fade out, fade up, fade down, but I want to add in fade out over here. And make sure to get rid of that parentheses, that extra parentheses that we've got here, or else you're going to have an error. So we done with if data.success is true. Now we want to actually also check if data.status is equal to 0. So how about if student wasn't actually deleted? Now what do we want to do? We could go ahead and let's simply just console log something. We could console log unable to delete students, or student wasn't deleted successfully. Student was unable to be deleted. Is that actually right? Yeah, whatever, let's just keep it like that. So with this now, I think that's pretty much what we want to do. And remember to add in this thing over here. I'm just going to come up a little bit, and I'm going to come over here. So remember to add all this SID here, or else you're going to get an error. So what I want to do is come over here, and I'm simply going to just click on one of those buttons over here. And what do you notice? Boom, Emmanuel is gone. So I'm going to close this off so you take a closer look at what's going on. I'm going to close the first one. She's gone. I'm going to close this one. You're gone. And as you can see, just like that, I deleted everything that I've got in my database. And if I simply head over to the admin section, and as you all know, from the admin section, that's where we are actually doing admin things. Yeah, so that's what I'm simply going to say. So from here, as you can see, we don't have any student, and we can simply come over here and add a new student. And as you can see, it gets added. We could delete the student, and I think there is a problem. Let me refresh this, and we can delete the student, and as you can see, they are gone. So everything is working perfectly well. It's expected now. I think in the next video, we're going to go ahead and start working with editing a student, so that I'm simply going to come over here and add a new student, so that when we hit this edit button, it's simply going to fill in all the students' information over here. And what do you think we're going to do? We're simply going to change whatever we want to change, and hit the enroll student again, or update student, whatever, and they're going to get updated over here. So do make sure to turn on the bell notification if you want to get updated with this series. And we're going to still be doing a whole lot of things. We're going to be adding the search functionality. We're going to be hosting this on Heroku. We're going to be, doing a whole lot of things. And if you've got any idea on what you'd want to see over here, do make sure to drop in the comment section, as we'll be building out and adding more features to this project as we go. I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. If you've got a couple dollars to spare, make sure to check out my YouTube membership. As low as $1 is really going to be helpful and appreciated, and it's going to help me make more free videos for you guys. So in the meantime, I hope to see you guys later. For now, mad love, peace out.